She told me I was paranoid about her ex. The next day, a delivery driver dropped off flowers at our door with a card from him. I just smiled. That evening, she was locked out. Now she's crying that she'd never talk to him again. You ever have one of those moments where you ask a simple question and the answer you get is so aggressive, so over the top, that you know the question hit a nerve? That was me on Monday night. The question was simple. Have you been talking to Ryan again? Ryan is my girlfriend Ashley's ex. The ghost at the feast. The guy whose name would pop up just a little too often. For the 2 years we'd been together, I'd played it cool. I'm not a jealous guy by nature, but for the last 6 months, something felt off. She was guarding her phone like it held state secrets. She'd take calls in the other room. Small things, but they add up. The pressure had been building, and on Monday, I finally asked the question. The explosion was immediate. I was paranoid. I was controlling. I was insecure. How dare I accuse her? Did I not trust her? She stormed around our apartment, my apartment, a key detail, calling me crazy. It was a masterclass in gaslighting. By the end of it, she had me half convinced I was the bad guy for even having a suspicion. She went to bed angry, sleeping on the far edge of the mattress, a physical representation of the canyon she had just carved between us. I stayed up for a while, feeling like an idiot, not for asking, but for doubting myself. The next morning, Tuesday, she left for work in a stony silence. No goodbye, no have a good day, just the cold shoulder. I was working from home. Around noon, the doorbell rang. It was a delivery driver holding the biggest bouquet of roses I have ever seen in my life, the kind of ridiculous, over-the-top bouquet you see in movies. For Ashley, the driver said, handing them to me. I took them. They must have weighed 20 pounds. Tucked into the roses was a small white envelope. I knew, with a certainty that made my stomach clench, what this was. I slid the card out. The handwriting was a masculine scrawl. Last night was incredible. You're even more beautiful when you're angry. Can't wait for the weekend. R for Ryan. Last night was incredible. The same night she was fighting with me, calling me paranoid for suspecting she was talking to him. This wasn't just a smoking gun. This was a signed, notarized confession delivered to my front door. A strange feeling washed over me. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was a cold, quiet calm. The kind of clarity you get when a complex problem suddenly resolves itself into a simple solution. The problem was my relationship. The solution was to end it. Immediately and decisively. I didn't call her. I didn't text her a picture of the card. I just smiled. I took the ridiculous bouquet and put it in the very center of the dining room table, like a centerpiece for a funeral. Then I took out my phone and took several high-resolution photos of the flowers and the card, side by side, from every conceivable angle. Evidence secured. Then I went to my office and started making a plan. She thought I was paranoid. She was about to find out how methodical I could be. Update 1. The rest of that Tuesday was a blur of quiet, focused activity. She had made a fool of me. She had used my home as a base of operations for her affair. The disrespect was absolute. The response had to be equally absolute. First, I secured my finances. We had a joint savings account, one we were supposedly using to save for a vacation. I had put in about $10,000 over the last year. She had contributed a grand total of $500. I logged into my bank, transferred my $10,000 into my personal checking account, and left her $500 there. Then I called my credit card company. She was an authorized user on my main card, a privilege she used frequently. I explained that the card had been compromised and that a specific user needed to be removed immediately. 5 minutes on the phone, and her access to my money was gone. Next, I dealt with her physical presence in my home. I didn't want a drawn-out, messy breakup with arguments and bargaining. I wanted a clean amputation. I went to the storage closet and pulled out a stack of moving boxes I had from my last move. For the next 4 hours, I packed her life away. It was a strange experience, handling the physical objects of a relationship that was now dead. The clothes I had bought her, the books she loved, the knickknacks she had collected, I packed it all. I was careful, methodical. I didn't want her to have any grounds to claim I had damaged her property. I was creating a paper trail of reasonableness. I labeled each box with its contents. Ashley, sweaters, Ashley's shoes, Ashley bathroom. By 5 o'clock, 34 boxes were stacked neatly by the front door. My final step was to secure the apartment itself. It was my name on the lease and mine alone. I called a 24-hour locksmith and had him come over. An hour later, I had new locks on the front door and the back patio. Her key was now just a useless piece of metal. At 6:30 p.m., my phone rang. It was her voice cheerful, as if the fight from the night before had never happened. "Hey, I'm just leaving work. Want me to pick up some Thai food for dinner?" "No," I said calmly. "You should probably figure out other dinner plans." There was a pause. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you still mad about last night? I already told you, you're being paranoid." "Am I?" I said, my voice still even. "That's interesting, because Ryan seems to think otherwise. He sent you some flowers today, a very large bouquet. The card was quite touching. It said last night was incredible. So while you were calling me paranoid, you were apparently having an incredible time with him. That's quite a talent." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I could practically hear the gears in her head grinding, trying to come up with a lie big enough to cover this. I don't know what you're talking about," she finally stammered. "I didn't get any flowers." "Oh, I know you didn't," I said. "I did. They were delivered here to my apartment." Which brings me to the second point. You don't live here anymore. All of your belongings are packed. They are in 34 boxes by the front door. The locks have been changed. You need to find somewhere else to stay tonight." "You're kidding me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I am not," I said. "You disrespected me, you lied to me, and you cheated on me, all while trying to make me believe I was the one with the problem. That is not something I tolerate. We are done. A moving service will be arriving tomorrow at noon to pick up your things. You can either tell me where you want them sent, or they will go to a storage unit." Then the screaming started. I was a psycho. I was a monster. She was going to call the cops. "Go ahead," I said. "Tell them you want access to an apartment that you are not on the lease for, an apartment owned by the man you just cheated on. See how that works out for you. Goodbye, Ashley." I hung up and blocked her number. I sat down on my couch, in my quiet, clean apartment, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I could breathe again. Update 2. The war, of course, had just begun. Ashley is not the type to go quietly. When direct assault failed, she did show up and pound on the door for a while, a performance dutifully recorded by my doorbell camera. She pivoted to her area of expertise, a public relations campaign designed to paint me as the villain. The next day, the movers came, and under the watchful eye of my security camera, moved her 34 boxes to a storage unit. I texted her the address and the access code from a blocked number. That was the last direct communication I intended to have with her. By that evening, the first shots were fired on social media. Her best friend, a girl named Lauren who I had never liked, posted a long, vague story about standing with her best friend who just escaped a dangerously controlling and paranoid partner. There were pictures of Ashley, looking tearful and victimized. The narrative was set. I was the unhinged boyfriend who flew into a jealous rage over a friendly gesture, the flowers, and threw my innocent girlfriend out on the street. Over the next few days, the story grew. Mutual friends started to take sides. I got a few angry texts from people I barely knew, telling me I was a terrible person. Ashley, emboldened by the support, started posting herself. Vague quotes about toxic relationships and the strength of survivors. It was a disgusting, calculated performance. I knew I had to respond, but not in the way she expected. She wanted a messy, public fight. She wanted me to post angry denials, to get into comment wars. That would just feed her narrative that I was unstable. My response had to be quiet, precise, and devastating. I had the picture of the flowers and the card. That was my primary weapon. But I needed more. I needed to show not just the betrayal, but the premeditation. I started thinking, "Can't wait for the weekend," the card had said. What was happening this weekend? Then I remembered. A few weeks ago, she had told me she was going on a girls' trip with Lauren from Friday to Sunday. A spa weekend at a fancy resort a few hours away. She had been very specific that I was not invited. I had a strong suspicion that this was the weekend getaway Ryan was referring to. But I needed to prove it. I did some digging online. The resort she had mentioned was very active on social media. I found their Instagram page and started scrolling through their tagged photos. It was a long shot, but people loved to post pictures of themselves at expensive places. It took me about an hour, but then I found him. Ryan. His profile was public, and he had a post from just a few days ago. It was a picture of the resort's famous infinity pool, with the caption, "Much needed break from the city coming up this weekend, can't wait." It was circumstantial, but it was strong. But I still needed the final, undeniable link. I kept scrolling through his photos, and then I found it. A picture from a few months back. He was at a party, arm in arm with another woman. A woman I recognized. I had seen pictures of her on Ashley's own social media. It was Ashley's cousin, who lived in another state. The caption on Ryan's photo read, "Great time celebrating with my amazing fiancée, Sarah." Fiancée. The entire chessboard rearranged itself in my mind. Not only was Ashley cheating on me with Ryan, but she was helping Ryan cheat on his own fiancée. This wasn't just a simple affair. It was a conspiracy of two deeply selfish people, with collateral damage they clearly didn't care about. Now I had a plan. A quiet, surgical plan that would not only exonerate me, but would also ensure that they both faced the consequences of their actions. Final update. It's been 4 months now. The drama is over, and my life is my own again. The way things unraveled for Ashley and Ryan was, in a word, spectacular. And the best part is, I barely had to do a thing. I just provided the truth to the one person who deserved to know it. I waited until Friday evening, the day their romantic spa weekend was supposed to begin. I knew they would be at the resort, feeling safe, feeling like they had gotten away with everything. Then I made my move. I found Ryan's fiancée Sarah on social media. She had a professional profile, easy to find. I crafted a very simple, very direct message. I didn't want to be dramatic or emotional. I just wanted to be factual. "Sarah," I wrote, "my name is Mike. I am, or was, the boyfriend of Ashley. I am writing to you because I have reason to believe that our partners are currently together at the resort name. I know this is a terrible way to find this out, but I believe you have a right to know the truth. I have attached a photo of a card and flowers that Ryan sent to Ashley on Tuesday, referencing their plans for this weekend. I'm so sorry." I attached the crystal clear photo of the roses and the card that read, "Last night was incredible. Can't wait for the weekend." And then I hit send. I don't know exactly what happened at the resort that night, but I can piece it together from the digital explosion that followed. Sarah, it turns out, was not the type to sit quietly with this information. She apparently called the resort and asked to be put through to Ryan's room. I can only imagine the conversation that followed. The next morning, her social media was a war zone. She posted the picture I had sent her, the flowers, the incriminating card, for all the world to see. She tagged both Ryan and Ashley. She wrote a long, furious post about being betrayed by the man she was supposed to marry and the woman he had been seeing behind her back. She didn't spare a single detail. The narrative changed instantly. Ashley was no longer the brave survivor of a paranoid boyfriend. She was the other woman, the homewrecker, caught red-handed. Her friends, the ones who had been so quick to attack me, went completely silent. The social media mob, which had been aimed at me, turned its full fury on her and Ryan. The consequences were swift and brutal. Ryan was, of course, dumped by Sarah. His life became a public spectacle of shame. Ashley was fired from her job. The company she worked for was a small, family-oriented business, and the owner did not appreciate one of his employees being at the center of a viral cheating scandal. With no job, no boyfriend, and her reputation in tatters, Ashley had to crawl back to her parents, who were horrified by the whole situation. She is, from what I hear, miserable. She is living the consequences of her actions, a concept she had never seemed to grasp before. A few weeks ago, I got a text from an unknown number. It was her. A long, rambling message full of tears and regret. She was sorry. She'd made a terrible mistake. She would never talk to Ryan again, she swore. She asked if there was any chance we could talk. I replied with a single sentence. "I am not paranoid. I was right. Please do not contact me again." Then I blocked the number. The ultimate revenge wasn't locking her out of the apartment. It was the simple act of telling the truth to the right person. I just provided the key, and Sarah unlocked a world of consequences for them. They thought I was the crazy one. They thought their lies were clever. But in the end, the truth, delivered quietly and at the right moment, was all it took to bring their entire deceptive world crashing down. My life is quiet now. There are no secrets, no lies, no ghosts of ex-boyfriends. It's just peace. And it's better than I ever could have imagined. My fiancée told me she was going on a girls' trip, and when I questioned it, she told me to stop being insecure. I just smiled because I already knew she was lying. She'd been acting distant for a few weeks, and the story about a last-minute spa weekend in the mountains with her friend Catherine just didn't feel right. Catherine was a homebody who hated long car rides. When I casually mentioned that, Ariana's eyes went cold for a second. That was all the confirmation I needed. I didn't argue or get angry. I just went into the other room, looked up a local private investigator with good reviews, and paid his retainer fee. It felt strange, like something out of a movie, but my gut was screaming at me. The PI, a quiet guy named Dave, was professional. He asked for a photo, her car details, and the timeline. I gave him everything. I told Ariana to have a great time, kissed her goodbye on Friday morning, and went to work. The house felt empty and quiet, but not in a bad way. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. Dave's first text came in that afternoon. It was a picture of Ariana's car parked at an upscale hotel an hour away, not in the mountains. The timestamp was 3:15 p.m. An hour later, another picture. This one was of her at the hotel bar, laughing with a man. I recognized him immediately. It was Mark. Mark from her yoga studio. Mark, the guy with the perfect smile and the trust fund. Mark, the one she told me never to worry about. The final report landed in my email inbox Sunday night, just before Ariana was due home. It was concise and brutal. It had photos of them checking in together, photos of them holding hands by the pool, and the one that sealed it, a crystal clear shot, taken through the glass lobby doors, of the man she kissed goodnight before they went up to their room. It wasn't just any stranger, it was someone she told me never to worry about. Dave even got a shot of the room number. He was thorough. The subject line of the email just said, Case File 734. It felt impersonal, which somehow made it worse and better. When Ariana walked in the door, she was glowing. She dropped her bags and threw her arms around me, talking about how relaxing the weekend was and how much she missed me. I just hugged her back and smiled. I let her tell me all about the massages and the hiking, the funny things Catherine supposedly said. I just nodded along. She didn't notice the change in me. She only saw what she wanted to see. That night, I made a plan. The anger was there, but it was cold and sharp. I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I started making moves. Our joint savings account wasn't huge, but it had about $10,000 in it, mostly from me. I transferred my half into a new personal account I'd opened online in minutes. I left her half untouched. Then I went into my payroll portal at work and rerouted my direct deposit to the new account. I took a screenshot of the confirmation page, dated and timed. Evidence. Our apartment lease was our biggest shared liability. We'd been living there for 3 years. Our landlord, Mr. Henderson, was a stern but fair older guy who lived on the first floor. He'd seen dozens of couples come and go, and he had a strict policy on tenants not named on the lease. I pulled out our agreement and found the clause I was looking for. Clause 14B. All tenants listed on this agreement are jointly and severally liable for the full rental amount. Removal of one tenant requires the remaining tenant to requalify financially or vacate the premises within 30 days. Her part-time job wouldn't even cover a third of the rent. I spent the rest of the week playing the part of the loving fiancé. I made dinner. I asked about her day. She was so smug, so confident in her deception that it made it easy. She thought I was the same old predictable guy. She had no idea I was dismantling our life together, piece by piece, right under her nose. I packed a box each day with things that were mine, books, photos, family heirlooms, and took them to a small storage unit I rented a few miles away. The apartment slowly became less mine, but she didn't notice. The following weekend, I put the next phase into motion. I told her I'd received an unexpected job offer from a competitor. It was a huge promotion, but it was in a city 3 hours away. This wasn't true, of course. My buddy runs a small company and was happy to draft a realistic-looking offer letter for me. It looked official, complete with a salary bump and a start date. Ariana's reaction was interesting. She wasn't happy for me. She was annoyed. She immediately started talking about how this would affect her life, her friends, her yoga studio. "You can't just expect me to uproot my whole life," she said, crossing her arms. There was no we or us in her response, just her. "I know it's sudden," I said calmly, "but it's too good to pass up. I have to take it, which means we need to talk to Mr. Henderson about the lease." Her face went pale. "What about the lease?" "Well, I'm moving, so I need to get my name taken off it. We can talk to him together on Monday. I'll set it up." The meeting in Mr. Henderson's small, cluttered office was tense. He sat behind his big wooden desk, looking at us over his glasses. I had already spoken to him privately, explaining that I was leaving due to a dissolution of the relationship and wanted a clean break. I think he appreciated the heads up. He didn't like drama. I laid out the story about the job offer. Ariana sat there silently, glaring at me. Mr. Henderson listened patiently, then slid a form across the desk. "This is a tenant release form. Once you sign it, Daniel, you'll be absolved of responsibility for the lease, effective in 30 days. Ariana, since you're the remaining tenant, you'll need to submit new financial paperwork to see if you qualify to take over the lease on your own." He handed her a separate packet of papers. She didn't even look at them. "I can't afford this place by myself," she said, her voice tight. She was looking at me, expecting me to jump in and save her. I just shrugged. "I can't stay on a lease for an apartment I'm not living in." Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. "The policy is clear. If you can't qualify, you'll have 30 days to vacate the premises. The security deposit will be returned after a final inspection, minus any damages or cleaning fees." The silence in the room was heavy. Ariana just stared at the forms. She was trapped. She had built her life on the foundation of my income, and I had just pulled it out from under her. We walked back up to our apartment without saying a word. The moment the door closed, she exploded. She screamed, she cried, she accused me of abandoning her. She said I was selfish and impulsive. She never once asked me to stay. She just railed against the inconvenience I was causing her. I let her tire herself out. When she finally stopped, breathing heavily, I just said, "I'm staying at my sister's for a few weeks until my new place is ready." I had a bag already packed in my car. I walked out the door and didn't look back. The first text from her came an hour later. "You owe me for half the rent." I replied with a screenshot of the signed tenant release form, effective in 30 days. "Per Mr. Henderson, my obligation ends on the 30th, I wrote. The next text was just a string of curses. I didn't reply. Then came the phone calls from her parents. The Millers had always loved me. They saw me as the stable, reliable guy who grounded their flighty daughter. Ariana had obviously fed them a story about me suddenly deciding to move for a job without consulting her, leaving her in the lurch. Her mom, Sharon, was crying on the phone. "Daniel, how could you do this to her? She's hysterical. You two can work this out. Don't throw away a 5-year relationship over a job." I listened patiently. I let her say her piece. I knew arguing would be pointless. "Sharon," I said, my voice calm, "I understand you're upset. I think it would be best if we all talked in person. How about I come over for dinner on Wednesday?" She agreed immediately, probably thinking she could mediate and fix everything. I knew Ariana would be there. It was the perfect stage. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I printed everything. The PI's photos, blown up to 8x10s and placed in a manila folder. The hotel folio, which Dave had managed to get a copy of, showing a 2-night stay in a king suite, paid for by Mark's credit card. And the best part, a series of text messages between Ariana and Mark that Dave's report had included. He had contacts. One of them stood out. It was from Ariana, sent the day she left for her trip. It read, "He totally bought it. Stop being insecure. Just a few more days." I walked into the Miller's house on Wednesday night like a lamb to the slaughter. Ariana was sitting on the couch, looking miserable. Her dad, Tom, gave me a stiff handshake. Sharon just looked sad. They sat me down in the living room for the ambush. "Daniel, we think you're making a terrible mistake," Tom started. "Ariana told us you've been distant lately, and now this sudden move. It's not fair to her." Ariana started crying on cue. "I thought we were going to get married," she whimpered. "How can you just leave?" I let them go on for a few more minutes. I let them paint me as the villain, the heartless fiancé who was throwing everything away. I sat there, my expression unreadable. When they finally ran out of steam, the room fell silent. "Are you finished?" I asked quietly. Tom nodded, looking confused. I didn't say a word. I just reached into my briefcase, pulled out the manila folder, and slid it onto the coffee table in front of him. "I think you should look at this," I said. Tom opened the folder. His face went from confusion to shock to a deep, crimson anger. He looked at the first photo, Ariana and Mark kissing in the hotel lobby, and his jaw tightened. He flipped through the rest of the pictures, his breathing getting heavier. Sharon leaned over, looked at the photos, and her hand flew to her mouth. Ariana stopped crying. She saw the folder and her face went white. "What is that?" she demanded, though she already knew. "That," I said, my voice even, "is from the girls' trip. The one I was supposed to stop being insecure about." Tom slid the folder over to his wife without a word. She looked through the documents, her eyes welling up with real tears this time. She looked at the hotel receipt, at Mark's name. She looked at the printed text messages. She finally looked at her daughter, a look of profound disappointment on her face. "Who is Mark?" Tom asked, his voice dangerously low. Ariana stammered. He's a friend from yoga." "Doesn't look like a friend to me," Tom growled, tapping the photo of them kissing. "You lied to us, Ariana. You lied to everyone." The fight that followed was epic, but it wasn't my fight. I just sat there and watched the family dynamic implode. The Millers weren't angry at me anymore. All their anger was directed at their daughter, who had not only cheated on her fiancé but had also tried to manipulate them into taking her side. I stood up. "I think I should go," I said into the chaos. Sharon looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. "Daniel, I am so sorry." I just nodded, "Me too." I walked out of that house and didn't look back. The foundation of her support system was gone. Her parents wouldn't be co-signing a new lease for her. They wouldn't be giving her money to cover the rent. I knew, because Tom called me the next day to apologize and told me so himself. "She made her bed," he said. "Now she can ask Mark for help." The fallout with our mutual friends was next. News travels fast. Ariana's version, of course, was that I had a midlife crisis and abandoned her. Some people believed her. I got a few angry texts from her friends, calling me a coward. I ignored them. Our closest friends, a couple named Jenna and Tom, were caught in the middle. Jenna called me, trying to be diplomatic. "I just don't get it, Dan," she said. "Leaving her high and dry with the apartment, it seems so cruel." "Did Ariana tell you where she was 2 weekends ago?" I asked. "She said she was on a girls' trip with Catherine." "Call Catherine," I said. "Ask her how the trip was." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I knew Catherine would tell the truth. She was a terrible liar and hated being put in the middle of things. An hour later, my phone rang again. It was Jenna. "Oh my God," she said, her voice a whisper. "I am so sorry. Tom and I had no idea." "I know," I said. "Most people don't." I forwarded her the same set of photos and documents I had given the Millers. I didn't need to explain anything further. The evidence spoke for itself. The truth spread through our social circle like wildfire. The angry texts stopped. The narrative shifted. Ariana wasn't the victim anymore. She was the villain in a story she wrote herself. The 30 days passed quickly. I was busy setting up my new life. I found a great one-bedroom apartment across town. It was smaller, but it was all mine. The silence was incredible. On the last day of the month, I got an email from Mr. Henderson. It was a final statement for the old apartment. He had deducted $500 from the security deposit. The itemized list was attached. There was a charge for junk removal, $300, and deep cleaning, $200. A note at the bottom read, "Apartment left in a state of disarray. Significant personal effects abandoned." She hadn't just left, she had left a mess for someone else to clean up. Classic Ariana. The remaining deposit was being mailed to me, as I was the primary contact on the account. I transferred her half to her and kept mine. I heard through Jenna that Ariana had moved in with Mark. Apparently, living together wasn't as fun as hotel weekends. The reality of bills and responsibilities was setting in. Her parents were still giving her the cold shoulder. She had burned every bridge to get to an island that turned out to be a swamp. I finished unpacking the last box in my new apartment that night. The place was finally starting to feel like home. I opened a bottle of whiskey I'd been saving and poured a glass. I sat on my new couch, looking out the window at the city lights. My phone buzzed. It was a new number, but I knew it was her. I blocked it without reading the message. I took a sip of my whiskey and enjoyed the silence.